Off with 1 Samuel 26:25 was Saul saying to David, "Blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail." So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his palace. So David had the chance. He had the chance, as we talked extensively about doing Saul in, right, twice. But he kept saying that he wasn't going to touch God's anointings. So moving into chapter 27, starting at verse 1, tell Robbie we're moving right along. And David said in his heart, "I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. And Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel, so shall I escape out of his hand." Now, this is amazing, because this shows us that David didn't believe Saul's words. Okay, because he's already said before, I'm not going to come after you, and then he came after him again. So David doesn't believe him. All right, but to put this in the correct light, David is saying, "I'm going to flee to the Philistines." And that would be like somebody fleeing to Gaza today. Or fleeing to Lebanon. All right, see, you're fleeing to the enemy because you literally have no hope. And I think we are seeing David at the end of his rope. And like the Israeli government, it was the Israeli government, you could say, was after David. The king is after David, so all of Israel is after David, if you will. And so if you were to flee to Gaza, can you imagine fleeing to the enemy? Would you, if an Israeli fled to Gaza today, would there be any hope for them? No. And so I don't know what would be worse, being hunted down by Saul or being run into Gaza, to flee to Gaza to the enemy. So I think here that David is depressed. What do y'all think?
I don't know. I just can't figure why and this is the second time. He went to Gath before. And then he ended up acting crazy to get away.
Right, exactly.
They discovered him and were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And now he's going to go there again?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. But do we not do dumb things when we're depressed?
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tired, depressed.
Hungry.
Anxiety.
Hangry. I never heard that word till Jennifer called Robbie that one time. She said he gets hangry, and so she's got a little collage in the kitchen, and she found something that said hangry.
Is it H-A-N?
H-A-N-G-R-Y. Yeah, when people get grumpy when they get hungry, and so he gets hangry. All right, so I wanted to park right here for a minute and squeeze out everything we can, because David has come this far under horrible circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible. And he's escaped death several times. He's had 2 opportunities to kill Saul, and he's resisted the temptation every time, even if he had the temptation, which I don't even know if he did have the temptation, or he was just so set that he wasn't going to kill him. All right, and so Saul has declared war, or has declared that the war is over, but David knows he's lying. And I think despair has set in David. And so really what's happened is he's gotten his eyes off of the very one that brought him this far, which is God. And isn't it easy for us to have faith and have faith and have faith, and then we get weary?
Yeah. I was just thinking, he's either choosing death or death. Like what you said about the Israelis. Do they look at it like, well, it's to die this way or to die this way?
That's a good point. That's
so
a very
maybe they
good point.
just get discouraged running and say, I'm just going to give over to the enemy. Maybe somebody will just kill me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so what happens is we go from mountaintop to mountaintop to mountaintop, then we go to the valley, and then we sit there and die. Too many times. And so I think that's where David is. He's just given up. And And what we can learn from this is, no, we got to not do that. We got to stay in faith. We got to not look at the circumstances. We got to believe our God and who He is and what He says about us and what His promises are. And as Paul told us, we're in a race and we've got to fight for our very souls. And no matter what, we cannot give up. And I don't know if y'all are keeping abreast of what's going on in Israel, but they are about to have a ground invasion in Lebanon. And it's really hot and heavy over there with Hezbollah, and they've killed almost every one of I think all but 2 of the top heads of Hezbollah. And so they're about to wipe them out. And see, you can't go by the way things look. You just got to do what God has told you to do. And you've got to say, I will survive, right? Like that song, I Will Survive. I can't remember who sang that. So this reminded me of Elijah. Did not Elijah do the very same thing? And the reason I want us to park here is because this should help us. Because guess what? David is a human being. Elijah was a human being. And we are human beings. And that's why God gave us His stories, because we can learn from these people and how they overcame. And then hopefully we will overcome. So I was thinking about Elijah when I was writing this, and how he just saw this great victory on Mount Carmel. And he knew it was God. Because fire coming down from heaven and consuming all the sacrifices and burning up the stones, it could not be man-made. That had to be God. But all because Jezebel said she was going to kill him. Then he went into this Great Depression. So what happened? He got his eyes off of God, and he got his eyes back onto his circumstances. So listen to what this Williams commentator said. He said, what are you doing here, Elijah? Even though the Lord, through the angel, greatly helped the prophet, as is here obvious, still the help given by the Lord didn't mean that Elijah was in the will of God. In fact, the very question posed by the Lord to the prophet, why are you here, Elijah, proclaims the fact that none of this was the Lord's doings. What would the answer be if the Lord asked every believer presently, what are you doing here? Concerning this very thing, and as it pertains to the new covenant, Paul said, examine yourselves, whether you be in the faith, and the words, the faith, refers to Christ and Him crucified, with the cross ever being the object of our faith. So prove your own selves. Make certain your faith is actually in the cross and not in other things. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, which He can only be by our faith expressed in His sacrifice, except ye be reprobates or rejected. And that's in 2 Corinthians 13:5. Any place in which the believer might find himself other than in the faith deserves the question, what are you doing here? So many of the journeys that we take are so useless, so out of order, so unnecessary. More than likely that could be said of us all. In reply to the question asked by our Lord, the prophet at once begins to speak well of himself and ill of the nation. Concerning this, William said he should have set himself aside and interceded for and not against Israel, as Romans 11 teaches. He was angry because the people would not listen to him and turn unto Jehovah. Williams went on to say, the angry prophet, crouching with embittered heart in the cast, as hateful as the flesh in them. He is